All right, hey guys, how's it going? Welcome. We are just about to start the Keep America Great panel. My name is Guy Benson. I'll be moderating. I'm from Town Hall and Fox News. I'll just very quickly go down the row here and introduce everyone. I think you might know most of them, if not all of them. Directly to my right, your left, ironically, is Ann Coulter, best-selling author and columnist. Tomi Lahren is my colleague at Fox News. She's a host at Fox Nation. Mayor Glenn Jacobs is the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, and WWE star. You might know him as Kane. And Elisha Krauss of the Daily Wire and the Lady Briggs podcast. So our general goal here today is to talk amongst ourselves for about half an hour and then turn it over for some Q&A. We'd be happy to engage with you guys. Really appreciate you all being here. I guess the first question is, the title of our panel is, I'm hopefully out-shouting the other panel, if you guys can hear me. Keep America Great is the re-election slogan for the president. It kind of, inherent in the slogan is the notion that he has made America great again, and we have to keep it that way. Is that true? Has the president made America, if not great again, better than it was? We could just go down the row and start with Ann.
I guess I'd say Trump is very, very, very lucky in his opponents. Because about a month ago, I was warning conservatives, don't be so confident that he's going to win re-election. You have, the argument would be he won by 80,000 votes spread across 4 states in the industrial Midwest. He's kept some of his promises, but not the big one. And he hasn't deported Dreamers, he hasn't done anything about anchor babies, he certainly hasn't built the wall. The Democrats were caught sleeping in 2016. Everybody thought Hillary was going to win. How many liberals said, I don't want to get up early and go vote. Hillary's going to win, I'll just say I voted. They're not going to do that in 2020. And so I was thinking, there is a percentage of his base that are really disappointed. I'm 50-50 whether he wins again. And then I started watching the Democratic debates. They are trying to throw this election to him. He's throwing it back, but they are trying to throw the election to him, which is why, I think you guys saw this week, Judge Judy saying, I'm for Michael Bloomberg, and the cover of the New York Times story, they had a story about how every place Democrats get together, they start talking about, don't we have somebody else we could run? Is there somebody? But and I'll finish with this, a lot of very liberal columnists, Frank Bruni, Thomas Friedman, New York Times reporters, many others, keep saying to the Democrats running for president, stop taking insanely unpopular positions. Medicare for all, we're going to throw you off your private health insurance. All of them across the board are saying, open borders, are you out of your mind? These are unpopular positions, and as Frank Bruni put it, liberals hate Trump so much that they've decided to be the antonym of Trump. If he's for it, we're against it. And he's driving them to take crazier and crazier positions. So, hopefully second term, they'll keep trying to impeach him, that'll keep his feet to the fire, and we'll finally get that wall.
So we'll return to handicapping re-election, we'll return to the impeachment process as well. Tomi, your thought on just broadly, the Keep America Great, the assumption behind that catchphrase?
Well, I think to say that you can make America great again in this amount of time, I don't think is realistic. I think he's certainly done great things. I'm happy to see border apprehensions go from 100,000 to 50,000. That's 50,000 too many. But I think you're seeing some movement there. I'm with Ann, as I'm sure all of you know. I think we need a wall. I think that that's what people came out to vote for in 2016. But I think that what is going to help Trump, besides the Democrats just being completely ridiculous and downright moronic, is the fact that I think Trump's base gets very spirited and passionate when they continue to go after Trump. They go after Trump with the Mueller investigation, you see conservatives and Trump supporters show up. They go after Kavanaugh, you see conservatives and Trump supporters show up. Now again with Ukraine, I think that you're going to see people that are just tired of not only the witch hunts as he calls them, but just the fact that the Democrats have nothing else to offer besides the investigations and the witch hunts, yet they won't even take a vote, so they just want to keep this cloud over our president's head because quite frankly, that's all they have. So they're pathetic, they have unpopular positions, but this president still needs to deliver on the promises he made to the American people. And we've talked about it before, but when people fill stadiums, they still chant, build that wall. They don't say, let them out. They don't say, when we're prison reform, they say, build the wall. And that's what we want.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, for me, it's all about the economy, and the country's doing very well. You know, if we're in a city that is the fastest growing city in the country and absolutely booming right now. And as long as the economy stays strong, I think things from the perspective of President Trump running for election are very good. I do worry, you know, how long can the Fed do what it's doing? Part of the reason the economy is doing so well is because interest rates are abnormally low and have been for a very long period of time. I am extremely worried about the spending, the debt, and those sort of things. You know, a lot of the failures of this administration can be blamed on Congress. We look at the failure to repeal the American, the ACA, the Obamacare Act. There was all this talk and then nothing really happened. President Trump is not as strong on the Second Amendment as I would like him to be in many cases. You know, that worries me. But overall, when you look at where the country is, the country's in a really good spot. And as long as it stays there economically, I think that, you know, President Trump wins again. And as Ann pointed out, the Democrats don't do themselves any favors because, you know, everything that they've, you know, the Ukraine deal, who's that hurt the worst? Joe Biden, you know? And you look at Elizabeth Warren and her policies, I mean, she's so far left that I think that even people that don't necessarily like Trump aren't gonna vote for that. So they haven't done themselves any favors, and I think with the economy roaring along, as long as it stays strong, Trump's going to be in a really good position.
And Elisha, just to drill down a tiny bit, it's interesting, the old phrase, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I think on some major measures, especially to your point, Mr. Mayor, on the economy, the answer is just empirically yes for most Americans, and yet that is not translating into approval numbers anywhere near 50% for President Trump, and his re-elect is awfully soft, and general frustration about the direction of the country remains. And it's an interesting paradox.
That it's not trickling down a little bit. And I think that the biggest problem that Trump is going to have is the American people think that the president is the end-all be-all when it comes to politics, but the president is not the end-all be-all when it comes to politics. Tomi and I live in liberal LA, and I am alert and aware and a political geek enough to understand that it's local legislation, it's the local ridiculous mistakes and decisions of the local city council in your city, you know, it's your job as mayor. And I think that what his campaign needs to do, and what really conservatives and Republicans need to do across the board, is try to get those voters to understand on the big scale, yes, the president is important, but if there's a decision that's being made that you don't like, that you feel like is negatively affecting you, it's not necessarily Trump's fault. And whether or not he can do that, we'll have to see.
There's the other side of the coin of, because he wants to take credit for the stuff.
Of course.
It's good.
Every
right?
politician does.
That's typical politics, right, in some ways. So we're all right-leaning up here on this stage. We probably have different gradients of opinions of this president. Based on what we have seen so far in his 3 years, what is the number one most important positive achievement in your estimation, and what is the biggest shortcoming? And we'll go down, we'll start with you, Elisha.
Well, I'm not somebody that voted for him in 2016, but as it stands today, I will vote for him in 2020. So I think that's one of the
Why? Can I just let's focus on that.
Because in 2016, in addition to as a woman raising daughters, was a religious woman raising daughters, very turned off by his past as a person. There was nothing to add up. You know, with Marco Rubio, you had a voting record. With Ted Cruz, you have a voting record. There was no record of what he would or would not do. I mean, going back to, I say it was another life, when I used to produce a talk radio show, I would book him, and it was like he would always kind of change what he was saying that day with the wind. And so as a voter that is very conservative, I thought, I don't know that I can trust this guy to do what he says he's gonna do. Since he became president, other than, as Ann would point out, the wall, there's a lot of stuff that he did. And so the number one thing that for me was like line in the sand was Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh, who ain't even that conservative. There were other people that were on that short list that I would have preferred, but seeing how the left reacted to him, and I really appreciated Trump not kowtowing to the media, not kowtowing to the left, and still pushing him through. That was something that kind of put me over the line. I think a downside of this administration is what's currently happening with Syria and Turkey.
For me, the most important things are deregulation and the tax cut. The thing that didn't get accomplished was Obamacare. And if I could just carry on about what we were saying, one thing that the Trump administration has done that no other administration has done, and I can personally attest to this, is they take county officials from across the country, and we get to go to Washington and literally have a day on the Hill. So as county mayor, I would join officials from South Carolina and some of the other counties in the Southeast, and was able to go to Washington, D.C. and talk with the White House Chief of Staff, talk with the Small Business Administration, talk with the Secretary of Agriculture. And that's vitally important for state and local governments to be engaged with the federal government, and that hasn't always happened. So on one of those things that no one talks about, and that it's an internal thing, but it's really important, and they've done a wonderful job.
As far as what I'm most happy with and least pleased with, I was not pleased with him kowtowing to the left and to in the establishment with the First Step Act. I live in California. I think we've seen what so-called criminal justice reform has done to states like mine. Like I said, no one's chanting "let them out." So for me, something that Trump ran on was making sure we have safer communities, not only because of the border, but just in our communities. So I think the First Step Act, again, was a way to placate and in some cases pander to a group of people that he thinks is going to vote for him. I don't think it makes our streets safer, so I was unhappy with that. I don't think that he thought that one through. So that bothered me, especially because we can see the ramifications with Prop 47 and 57 in California. Not safe. And that goes along with the border. I'm happy with the improvements that have been made. I'm happy with his support. I just spent some time with our ICE agents last week, and they said this has been the most supportive administration. However, we need to get rid of, like you said, the local and the state policies. Being in California, we're a sanctuary state, so as much as ICE gets support from the president, there's only so much that they can do, and those problems need to be addressed not only at the border, but they need to be addressed internally with ICE and with what we can do on that front. But I think the economic gains that have been made under this president because of deregulation, because of common sense policies, have been phenomenal, and that's what I think the American people are going to vote on. But that all those things can be taken away if we have an open border. None of those things, nothing functions if we don't control our immigration crisis.
Yeah. I just want to vote for the funniest line of Politicon. Tomi just is saying, you don't think Trump thought through the First Step Act? Yes, I think that's right, Tomi.
I think he was listening to Kanye and Kim a little too much. Yeah. I don't think Kim Kardashian and Kanye West should be your policy advisors.
Right. That's been kind of an overarching problem with this administration. Didn't really think it through. And yeah, dumping criminals on the street. Obviously, the best thing he's done is 100% the courts. And why has it been the courts? Because he did what he should have done with immigration. His instincts are very, very, very good. I think you could wake him up in the middle of the night, throw a glass of cold water on him, ask him a question, should we build a wall? Hell yes, build the wall. Do we deport illegals? Yes. I think he would be running a better administration if he fired the entire White House staff and just did the stuff he woke up in the middle of the night thinking of. Because the stuff he wakes up in the middle of the night thinking of is great, and then, like you say, Kanye and Kim come to him, and this is going to be a great idea. I wouldn't really count on the economy. I mean, obviously everyone loves a great economy, but I don't know that it really is hitting the left behind, the people that he made the promises to. And what's heartbreaking and what drives people like me crazy is it could have been so much different. And please, God, let us get a chance to have him keep his promises and make it different. If building the wall, as Tomi said, makes everything easier. We have fewer poor people. We have fewer public services being wasted. We have less crime. It makes hospital wait times shorter. It means schooling is better. It means schools aren't wasting money on English as a second language. It means people have higher wages. And a really big thing it means, and these are people who were his base, it means that we don't have what is it now, 70,000 a year dying from opioids? That's heroin, 90% being brought in across the border from Mexico. A wall stops that, and those are the left behind people. They didn't want a tax cut. A lot of them don't pay taxes.
Let me ask though, because your top achievement is the courts, and I fully agree. He has been sensationally good, far better than I had feared. And that's a top reason why I would consider voting for him. Your biggest complaint is the wall. He's tried, right? There was a massive government shutdown over this. He has full autonomy basically over appointing judges. The Senate can, thanks to Cocaine Mitch, they can confirm basically everyone. When it comes to building wall and appropriating funds and other immigration-related issues, he's contending with another branch of government, right? So it's not just about him.
I know this is the official position of Fox News. He's trying. Mitch McConnell stopped him, but it is not true.
I did not blame Mitch McConnell for the record, and I don't have any official position.
Very easy to get it done. I have been telling him since the transition, you're the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief's #1 job is not to bomb Syria, is not to redistribute income, is not to harangue the Fed. #1 job of the commander-in-chief is to protect the United States of America. What the Department of Defense did, you can look it up, for the first, or it was Department of War for a long time. I so prefer that name, Department of War. What did they do? They built fortresses. They protected the border. Everyone seems to understand in America that the president has the authority to just, randomly bomb Syria because Ivanka cried, which he did. And you can't have a district court stop him from doing that. He doesn't need congressional approval. Reagan didn't need congressional approval to invade Grenada. This is his commander-in-chief's duty. And it was, just upheld by the Supreme Court that he can use Department of Defense funds to build the wall. So yeah, he could have done that right away. His problem was, and this is a contrast with the best thing he did and the worst thing he did, which is fall down on the job, on his central campaign promise, not just with the wall, deporting illegals. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan didn't go to the White House and grab his hand so he couldn't sign the executive order overturning Obama's unconstitutional executive order on Dreamers. Where is that? Where is that? He promised it during the campaign. He promised it during the 2018 elections. Does he have writer's cramp? Where is that?
It's in court, isn't it?
What the difference is, though, why have the judges been magnificent? So much better than any other Republican. I mean, think of the Bushes. They give us David Souter. They give us Harriet Miers. With Trump, we get Kavanaugh. We get Gorsuch. We're getting great judges. Why? Because he knew, I'm just a real estate developer. I'm not a reality TV show host. I know. I'll hire people who know what they're doing. The Federalist Society has been in charge of the judges, and it's gone beautifully. The one thing he contributed, and I'll give him credit for this, I think, and Ivanka asked him to back away from Kavanaugh when that lunatic came forward and accused him of, trying to murder her and the gang rapes and all that. Ivanka cried.
Julie Swetnick.
Yeah. My favorite. I would like a 24-hour day news channel with nothing but interviews with Julie Swetnick. He didn't back down. He stuck by Kavanaugh. And I will give him credit for that. But his choices were great because the Federalist Society did it. He could have brought in people who knew how to get the immigration stuff done. Chris Kobach, and he didn't do it. Why? Who knows?
So let's talk about that. One of the big reasons that you would talk to conservative voters in 2016 and you try to figure out, okay, why are you supporting Trump? One of the biggest answers always was, he fights. The other side fights dirty, he's gonna fight dirty. And that's what we need. And to his credit, I think a few times, one being Kavanaugh, I can envision other Republican presidents of years past just backing down and going into a defensive crouch and saying, it's too much, we can get someone else. And he didn't do that on Kavanaugh. How many presidents have promised to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and Israel and didn't do it? He did it. There is a certain element of not caring that has served him well. And on the other hand, he has backed down on occasion, and you were actually complaining about this, I saw the other day. There is still this seeming desire and craving for adulation from the press that he also hates. So what do you think of that dynamic? I feel like there's a very weird, symbiotic, dysfunctional relationship between him and the press.
Ann touched on this. I think it's if Ivanka Ivanka or one of the kids or whoever is in front of him is charming him, it seems to be able to dissuade him from something. I mean, we've seen it pretty consistently. And of course, like, I'm not the person that reads the article and it's like, Jared's running the West Wing. Like, of course not. I hate it when people try to fabricate that stuff, and I take everything with a grain of salt. But we have seen criminal justice reform, other things, where you hear, or very publicly, his children have a stance, or people that are close to him have a stance, and then he changes his stance on it. And I think that in other administrations you see this as well, but it's maybe more in private. And if I were Trump, I'd be annoyed at the leakers in the White House, because every day you're leaking something else, you're finding out something else that I think in past administrations you wouldn't. And so therefore it does make him look like he's more hem-haw, flip-flopping on things, when maybe he just needs to figure it out. And I agree with Ann. I think on some issues, I just wish they would get the right people in the room instead of maybe the people that he trusts the most in the room, because I don't trust the people that he trusts the most.
Tomi, do you want to jump in?
When you were discussing Ivanka and Jared, and I was curious what Ann thought, I think that Jared Kushner and Ivanka, as lovely as they may be, I think that Jared's a real problem. Again, because I referenced the First Step Act, I think that he's a liberal at heart, and admittedly a liberal, and I think that he influences a lot of the policies, or he really has the heartstrings of President Trump, and obviously Ivanka does, but I think to a greater extent Jared does, and I think that's why we see some of the, I didn't think through this, because Jared and Kim Kardashian came here with the camera crew, and then we end up with the First Step Act. I feel like that Jared
First Step Act is a great example, and I'm glad you brought it up, and it is, if that was Jared's baby. This law and order has been such a fantastic issue for Republicans for such a long time, and especially you guys in California. People want to be safe, and the rich are always going to be safe. That's what I mean about the forgotten people. The ones he was appealing to are the ones that are being hurt the most by him not keeping his promises. By putting criminals on the street, a certain number of Americans are going to be murdered, raped, have their cars broken into. That isn't our position. And I mean, after that thing passed, Jared was quoted saying, he was so happy all these felons are being let out, saying that African Americans who are let out of prison, oh yeah, they're gonna vote for us. They're not really interested in global warming. Well, okay, Jared, it's true. Black people aren't really into global warming. That's more the Swedish nutcase. But no, they're not going to be voting for you. I mean, if Trump loses, and I hope he does not, please God, don't let him lose when you see what he's running against. I do. If he loses, I want it to be by the exact percentage of felons that Jared enfranchised. Just so Tomi and I can sit back and say, he warned you.
Mr. Mayor, on the point of Trump fighting, where he sticks to his guns if you like him, he's truculent and out of control if you don't like him. We're all just talking heads up here. We just write and speak for a living. You have a constituency that you have to serve, right? You're an elected official. What is the balance that you try to strike when it comes to sticking by your principles versus giving a little bit? And how does that compare with what you see from the president?
Well, you have to stick by your principles. Otherwise, if you're always running to get reelected, you stink, frankly. And we have way too many politicians like that. Now, that being said, of course, sometimes you do have to say, how can we get this done, and what are my priorities, because I'm not going to be able to get that done. So what pragmatically do I have to do? But you can never turn your back on your principles. Folks, there is such a thing as a deep state. We see it at the local level too. And what I mean by that are people that no one knows, unless you're involved in politics, that are out there influencing, that are bureaucrats, that are all these things. I see it in Knox County, right? Which has a fraction of the people and the budget that the federal government does, So, if we could actually look at maybe the number one thing that's most important is you do have a guy that's willing to fight the deep state, that is anti-establishment, and for all of his failings, and for all the things that he says on Twitter, and for all the abrasiveness, and for all of that, at least he is not a dadgum politician up there just kowtowing people all the time. And I think that's important. And you see that all through, you see that all throughout politics at every level. So, I have some issues with President Trump too, but overall, the fact that he's not an establishment figure and the fact that he doesn't always do what the deep state and what the establishment would want him to do, I think is vitally important and at least a step forward and an important one for our country.
Elisha, how big of a threat is this impeachment process? Is there any chance that the president is actually removed from office? Could they get the Senate Republicans necessary for that? And let's just assume that he doesn't get removed. I think it's very far-fetched that would happen. If he does get impeached but not convicted, does that hurt him politically? Is there a backfire risk for the Democrats here? What's your read on that?
Today, with the information that we have today, because once again, with that caveat, because I love it when people are like, oh, you said this, and I'm like, yeah, but that was based on the information I had at the time. If we all probably said something different. Based on today, I think it's actually going to end up helping him, much like the Russia investigation did, because, and I think that it's really risky of Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats to be doing this so soon after the completion of the Russian investigation, because I think the average American, amazing average Americans right here in this audience are like, oh, this again? So even if there was a there, nobody believes that there's gonna be a there because they just saw the hullabaloo from a couple months ago and they're a little tired of that media narrative of like everything Trump touches is corrupt and awful and horrible and pay off and whatever. And it's really nitty-gritty, detailed information that the average voter doesn't care about. They care about where they are going to send their kids to school. They care about their safety. They care about their paycheck. And I don't think that it's going to be beneficial to the Democrats like they think that it will. And honestly, not that I tell Trump to be like Bill Clinton, but it didn't affect Bill Clinton. I mean, in the history of politics, Bill Clinton kind of stuck his head down. He was impeached, didn't step down, handled it completely different than Nixon decided to, which, actually didn't even end up going to an impeachment trial. But I think that Trump kind of has the personality and persona that he could play it like Bill Clinton did and pretend like it never even happened and say, you know what, well, Democrats focus on this, I'm going to focus on keeping America great, and it's a good pivot for him.
Although he is obsessively focusing on it, right? Bill Clinton
that's his
pretended like it wasn't happening and let other people do the arguing for him.
Yeah.
And Trump is like tweeting maniacally about it every day, so he's not exactly ignoring it. I do think that there is a risk, Tomi, of blowback on Democrats if it doesn't quite go their way, and just the fatigue of the constant investigations. However, after the Mueller report came out, impeachment was underwater by 20 or 30 points in every poll. The people looked at it, they said, nope, this is not worth impeachment. Those numbers have changed. Why do you think that is, and does that pose more of a risk?
Because the media keeps bringing up impeachment, and the low information viewers and voters that watch CNN at the airport, all they see is that little ticker that says impeachment, and they go, look, I told you the president's a crook. We got him this time. And that's why you're seeing poll numbers change, because people aren't actually aware of the facts of the case. They're not actually aware of what's going on with the impeachment inquiry. Has a vote been taken? And that's what the Democrats want. They want to continue the charade and the closed-door meetings for long enough to keep this going so that those that hate Trump and those can point to that and say, look, I told you. At the end of the day, if they really believed they had him, they would take a vote and we would move forward, but they don't. They just like the idea of it. They like the perception of impeachment, and it's going to hurt them. The American people are sick of this. They don't sit at home and worry about Russia or Ukraine or any of that. They worry about the kitchen table issues. They worry about law enforcement. They worry about their jobs, where they're going to send their kids to school. They're not concerned over this. It's only the zealots that watch other mainstream media networks.
And is it the media, though? Because the media, I think we can agree, was extremely hostile to the president. Before Ukraine came into the mix, I think they would have dearly enjoyed beating the drums for impeachment. They certainly tried on Russia. There does seem to be a sea change on substance on some level, but is it enough to actually harm the president politically? We're talking, a year, 13 months from now?
I don't think it's a good thing for him to be impeached, but I thought he would be as soon as Democrats took a majority in the House. You only need a majority in the House. You need 2/3 of the Senate to remove him. I don't think he'll be removed. Republicans are turncoats and betrayers, but the politicians tend to be reasonably good at what is going to help or hurt their reelection. And I'm sorry, if Republicans vote to remove Trump over nothingness, that's insane. One very important correction as a point of pride. Impeachment absolutely hurt Bill Clinton. Al Gore 100% would have won the re-election. The only reason Clinton wasn't removed was that it was a 100% party line vote. Even Joe Lieberman, who had taken to the Senate floor to denounce, he was Mr. Morality, to denounce the President of the United States using an intern as an ashtray. No, in the end, no, won't vote to remove. Stanley Greenberg, a very good pollster from Yale for the Democrats. He was Gore's pollster in that election, 2000. People said, oh, he should have been seen with Clinton. Stanley Greenberg said, Clinton so hurt Gore. He said, I promise you, if Clinton would have helped him, I would have had Gore carry Clinton around on his back. Gore would absolutely have won the presidency according to all historical narratives. It's very bad. I don't think it's that bad for Trump to be impeached because it's so obviously political. I think it's good for him, not for the reasons everyone else thinks, that it makes Democrats look insane, though it does make them look insane, not disagreeing. But I suddenly am more enthusiastic about Trump's re-election because I was thinking we have, and I'm sorry, I think I said this the last panel, but I've been thinking we have 13 months to get him to keep his promises. The only thing we can hold over him is that you're not going to be re-elected if you don't build that wall. You better build that wall. And so I keep saying that's why I'm going to hold his feet to the fire until either he doesn't win and then we're not getting a wall, or he wins and he's not facing re-election again. Well, then it occurred to me, they're never going to stop trying to remove this guy from office. If they impeach him, if this Congress impeaches him, they'll impeach him again. They'll just keep coming after him. There will be endless investigations. So he will have a reason to keep his promises because that's all he needs to do. He has to remember how he won that campaign. That was a bond with the American people. The entire media was against him. The entire Democratic Party and pretty much the entire Republican Party. What put him in the White House was this inseparable bond with the people. Wall Street gave 90% of their money to Hillary and the other 10% went to, the Green Party candidate. He had a gift like no other president had when he came to office. A president who won owing Wall Street nothing. And footnote, hired more Goldman Sachs people than Bush and Obama combined. He did kind of forget about his voters when he became president. That's why it's important to get him to focus back on his voters. It's his voters who protect him, and that will, I think, encourage him to keep his promises.
Okay, so before we get to Q&A with the audience, last question, it's down the line, it's a multi-part question. If you had to predict today, will the president be reelected? Point one. Point two, how much does his opponent matter? Is there someone that you feel more confident if the Democrats were to nominate that person, someone that you feel like would give Trump bigger struggles than others in the field? Elisha.
Today, he wins. And prior to this Ukraine stuff, I thought that Joe Biden was probably the most formidable candidate. And it's kind of interesting that the media has participated in raising up Elizabeth Warren, who I think would be the easiest person for Trump to beat. And I'm like, man, if the media really cared about a Democrat in the White House, they would have chosen Joe Biden. Even if it's still Joe Biden, I think that he is going to be the toughest to beat because he can pivot the conversation. And of course, we know that the media is going to side with him.
I can't add a whole lot more to that. That's actually, I agree with you very much. I think that Trump wins, and I agree with everything said about Biden. Look, can anyone, and if I was a Democrat, would I get really excited about any of these candidates? I mean, seriously. Who's like, oh gosh, this is, none of them. So, Biden, the only reason I even say Biden would have been the toughest is because he's a little more centrist, of course, than Warren. But I just don't think they have a viable candidate that's, other than Orange Man Bad, which is going to be the campaign slogan, everything else, as you guys have pointed out, and even for a lot of liberals, it's just way too far left. So I don't think in that respect it matters, but I do think that Biden would have been given the toughest run.
I think he wins re-election unless something goes horribly wrong. I think he wins re-election. And instead of just repeating what they said, my concern more so is not really with 2020, it's with who the hell do we have for 2024? And not only that, look at the impact that the dumbasses like AOC, Rashida, the rest of them, look at the impact that they've been able to make on our country. Look at Bernie Sanders. Look at what they've been able to do to our country. They're not the president, but they've been able to pull our country so far left. They've been able to convince young people that socialism is cool, that socialism is a viable economic policy and way of life. What damage they have done to our country, that is what I am concerned about. It's not necessarily 2020, I think we're okay with that. It's the future. If we bring in, the fact that AOC is sitting in Congress should terrify us. The fact that Bernie Sanders is a candidate and not just like he was in 2016, we knew he didn't have a chance, but now people are looking at Bernie and he moved everybody so far to the left. What do we do in how do you get more left than what we have now?
And I want to also layer in one more thing, which is it's very clear to me in seeing the Trump campaign strategy, they want to knock out Joe Biden now. They are trying to kill him politically, which may involve sort of elevating Elizabeth Warren, because the thinking goes, and they have internal polling, she'd be easier to beat, she's a radical on the left. Is there a be careful what you wish for lesson here, though? Because the Democrats, if I recall correctly, and the media did the same thing with Donald Trump last time. They said, let's elevate him. He's no way he can win. He's unelectable, and now he's the president. Is there a risk there where you elevate someone like Warren because she's the easiest to beat, and then all of a sudden you have a socialist president?
No. Yes. There's a danger that he loses and they've nominated the craziest person. So yes, if she became president, but it's not parallel to Trump. No, smart people knew he was going to win running on immigration. It looks to me that they're doing the George McGovern thing and going so crazily far left. So yes, it makes a difference whom he runs against, which was your original question. And to follow up on Tommy's point, because I think you're right, who are we running in 2024? What do we want? Well, I think what we want is someone with all of Trump's issues, but maybe someone who thinks things through. We want to think things through, President. And there are some out there, shockingly few. It is stunning to me that after Donald Trump, the most preposterous person ever to run for president, becomes president running on this basket of issues that every Republican in Washington would say, oh my gosh, the people hate us. We better do everything he wants. No, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan say, excellent, we have a Republican, we're gonna push tax cuts and lots of other things that he didn't run on. He didn't run on tax cuts, I'm sorry. I'm not against tax cuts, but that's not what got him elected. That's what every Republican runs on. He should not have done that. It should have been his agenda from the beginning. So who's pushing his agenda? And there are a few people, I'm not making any endorsements here, but Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, seems to be very, very good, very smart. Josh Hawley, senator from, I always get this wrong, Missouri. Missouri and Kansas are very close. I confuse them sometimes. I lived in Kansas City, so it's easy. Josh Hawley is very good. David Perdue, Georgia, very good. And who knows, they could do some crazy stuff. I could change my mind. But that's Chris Kobach if he wins his Senate election in Kansas. What we want is a statesman who will think things through, but run on Trump's issues. We want a Trumpian Republican Party, not in the sense of being a coarse vulgarian, but in the sense of running on popular issues, the stuff we want.
And with that, let's turn it over. We have a microphone I see right here. May I remind you in the Q&A that a question, we'd like to define that as 1 or 2 sentences concluding with a question mark, as opposed to a small speech. That would be terrific. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Tyler, and I have a question for the whole panel. Just to keep continuing the conversation of 2024, post-Trump, what are we going to do about the national debt? Just keeps going up and up and up, and we had our omnibus. I know Trump probably thought he was going to get the ball after the omnibus, but it didn't. Well, what are we going to do to rein that in? Because we're just paying interest forever, essentially, right?
I mean, he did say on the campaign trail he would eliminate the debt very easily. So easy, so simple. And it's been actually much less simple. So do we ever come back to the Tea Party stuff on fiscal responsibility, or does that happen when a Democrat wins?
I think, and I was the nerd that was at one of the first Tea Parties in Atlanta, actually, with like 30,000 people. And I wish that not just the White House, but the Republican Party as a whole would return to that Tea Party kind of mentality. And I think that downside of what the Republican Party has turned into for now, and I think that this happens a little bit with every president with an R after their name, it becomes more about that guy's like individual agenda than what the actual RNC creed says. And I don't know. I don't think so. I think that he might, if he's ever asked about it on the campaign trail, use that as a talking point of like, well, I need 4 more years to get it done, and we'll find somebody else to blame for it. But it's not going to be something that happens overnight, and I don't think it's at the top of mind of anybody, whether they're the executive or the legislative branch right now.
Is there a risk that, you know, the party that was freaking out about deficits and debt under President Obama, I think rightfully, it's poof, it's sort of gone. They'll say a few words about it, but they're not really doing anything about it. Like the credibility is shot.
Yeah, unfortunately. And you're right, it's not top of mind, and that's unfortunate. The reason it's not top of mind is because you have other issues and the economy is doing well. When it does become top of mind, it's going to be too late to do anything about it. You know, because again, $23 trillion in debt, literally $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities. We pay about $400 billion a year on debt service when we have an average interest rate that the federal government has secured at 2.15%. So we could easily be looking at $1 trillion a year in debt service. How do you pay for anything else? So that is, you know, we look at it as abstract because, you know, it's big numbers, but at some point it is going to impose on reality, and we are going to have to cut spending. We are going to have welfare and entitlement reform. We are going to have to realize that, you know, we can't be the world's policeman, that we can't support every other country in the world with their national defense. Unfortunately, my fear is that when that happens, it's too late, and the current monetary system, the Bretton Woods system too, you know, it's replaced by something, and the American people end up being the losers in that.
Ladies, do you mind if I go to another question, or do you want to weigh in on this?
I want to weigh in on this. I'll do it quickly. Immigration makes everything easier.
Exactly what I was.
I'm getting fed up with politicians. Sorry.
No, I agree
I'll
with you.
speak for both of us.
Please do.
I'm getting fed up with the Paul Ryans of the world and Chris Christie's. Oh, we're going to have to means test Social Security. Let's bring in another 1 million poor people this year who we're going to have to support. No, how about you take care of the people you made these Social Security promises to? And point 2, just quickly on this, one of the things that makes it easier is dealing with the deficit, because as important as the deficit and the national debt is, you're not going to win elections on it. I'm sorry, you're not. But you can win elections on immigration, and that
Also
is
solve
part
the
of
problem
what
along
we're
the way.
paying for.
I would note that there was an analysis that came out yesterday. Elizabeth Warren's plans so far have added up to $4.2 trillion of new spending every year, which would literally double the federal budget. So that's a cheery thought. Next question.
In 2015, Trump told Sean Hannity at CPAC that he thought Bill Clinton was going to have a lot of problems coming up because of the famous island and Jeffrey Epstein. Why do you think that didn't really go anywhere, and what does it say about the character of somebody who was also friends with a serial child trafficker and rapist for multiple decades, as Trump was?
Okay.
Same as Clinton.
Didn't have Jeffrey Epstein on the bingo card for this one, but it's an interesting question.
I'm an expert on Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay.
No, I mean, Trump was friendly with Jeffrey Epstein and lots of other people when the New Yorker and Michael Wolff and Vanity Fair, he had thrown Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago when all of those people in those magazines were still writing puff pieces on Epstein. People didn't know about the child molestation stuff. I don't think, if it makes you happy, I don't think Bill Clinton was having sex with underage girls. I think he liked going to, but he did fly a lot to Orgy Island. Whether he knew something was going on, a lot of elites were circling the wagons about a wealthy pervert, and it's disgusting, and I wish we'd get to the bottom of it. But the only point of trying to bring Trump into it, from my perspective, is it's the only way you can get the media to show the slightest interest in this pervert.
Sir.
So we hear a lot from the mainstream right and, you know, Republicans, politicians. X policy is good for Hispanic Americans. X policy is good for Black Americans. My question is there anything wrong with, and if so, what is wrong with, advocating directly for white Americans?
And first of all,
No,
is
it's
that
amazing.
shirt
It's a
shirt
with her
available on
face
your
on it.
website? Because that's
Everyone noticed the beautiful shirt he is wearing.
so
Google Ann Coulter shit.
a race-related question about the hyphenated American.
Fine young man.
Beautiful shirt. I don't know exactly how to answer that, but I have one quick thing to say. I do kind of despise the whole white privilege argument, because I feel like if you were born in the United States of America, you started privileged to be in the freest, most incredible country on God's green earth. And I think that conservatives need to understand that there are, Hillbilly Elegy so importantly pointed this out, there are impoverished white Americans, there are impoverished black Americans. I don't think any American, it doesn't matter your skin color, should be going without a meal, should be going without education, which is another thing Republicans should run on. And the only thing I agree with AOC on is that your zip code should not determine the quality of your education. That as a whole...
Although she's against school choice, which is delightful.
Unbelievable, because
Yeah.
that's my argument for school choice. I think that we just need to be, I don't know, it sounds like something my grandma would say, but like, you're an American, I'm an American, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, and that we need to be making policies that are the best for all Americans.
We hear Republicans talking all the time about what this is good for black Americans, this is good for, we hear them name dropping groups all the time.
I think it's a great question, because obviously the logical answer is no, of course not. Try saying that on a college campus. You'll be put in prison. I think consequently, the point that should be made is there's only one group of people that, as a country we owe something to, and that is people who were brought here as slaves. There aren't a lot of them, but to turn to allow immigrants to come and piggyback on the black experience in America of slavery and Jim Crow is nothing but an anti-white program. Why, if you get here from, Thailand on Friday, why can you say on Monday, well, I noticed there are no ties on the evening news. Where's your tie? I mean, diversity has replaced what it was supposed to be, which is integration and remedying historic injustices. We didn't do anything to the people we're letting come in now. So why are they being treated as if they're African Americans? That is the Republican position. We are the ones who fought the Civil War and fought Jim Crow. I'm sorry, African Americans don't vote for us, but we still have to take our principled stand, and that's our stand. Affirmative action set-asides for African Americans and no one else.
Next question.
With things recently, beginning of the year with like AOC's Green New Deal, what is kind of, maybe Trump's idea of the future of energy production in America?
I think he just talked about it the other day. I think the shale oil revolution and fracking is something that makes us energy independent, and I think that that's a wonderful thing to run on. I think that that's in large part going to help him in the states that he might be vulnerable that he won last time. So I think stick to advocating for pipelines and fracking and all the things that make us energy independent, and also create good paying jobs for communities that have supported him, that have voted for him, and that need something beyond just the wall and immigration to vote on again. I think that's God's gift to this country has been the shale oil revolution, and don't placate and kowtow to the environmentalists, because they're not going to vote for you anyway.
Yeah, if you look at, we're a net exporter of oil now, so we're in a great position. And I also think that when we're looking at electricity, we do, there are things like the electrical grid and nuclear power. What we've seen is that natural gas has replaced even clean coal a lot, in the power grid. But we do need, as well, with the national infrastructure of looking at things like, that. The grid's is in not great shape. So, just throwing that out there too.
We're almost out of time, so let's do 3 more questions. Ask them quickly in a row, and then it'll be a grab bag. You guys can respond to whatever you'd like. So you 3.
Yes. Hypothetically, if you had to choose a Democratic candidate to be president, who would you choose?
Biden.
Next question.
First off, Koa from Seattle, thank you guys for being here. Guy, I just want to say you're going to have a forever fan ever since that interview with Gary Johnson, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
I guess, yeah, looking forward to the age after Trump. It's kind of hard to imagine it right now, whether that's 2021 or 2025. Polling is pretty bad, obviously, for Gen Z towards Trump. How do Republicans capture Generation Z, because it seems like they're being kind of pushed away from the Republican Party? How do you kind of bring that electorate?
Okay, so Gen Z and one more miss.
Yes. So given that healthcare is one of the biggest issues that American families face, and not only just American families, but also fiscally, budget-wise, why hasn't there been a greater sense of urgency from Republicans to come to the table with a solution to that?
Okay, so really good questions. We have healthcare, we have young people, and we have of the field. I think the question was, hypothetically, who would you be most comfortable with actually being president? Let's start.
I'll take
Tomi,
the
go
Gen
ahead.
Z
Go for it.
question. We need to educate young people because they're not being educated right now. They're being brainwashed. I talk to young people all the time. It used to be just on college campuses primarily, and now it's all the way down elementary, middle school, high school. Talk to high schoolers in California. They've got pictures of AOC and Rashida Tlaib and the Black Panthers on their walls with their teachers espousing those views. So educating people. I'm not one of those people that thinks we need to silence liberals on college campuses. I just think we need to educate people on what socialism actually is, all the things that they think that they believe in, and all the candidates they think they believe in, like Bernie, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, educating them on exactly what that would do to their livelihoods. And beyond that, it's hard as a young person to feel the pains of what adults go through, but if you just relay it to them in a very simple way that what the Democrats want to do is take away your freedom, your ability to choose how you make and spend your own money, I think that brings it down to a very real level. I say it a lot to young people, but you can either be free or you can be dependent on the government. You can't be both, and that's how we get young people. I don't know if they're going to ever support Trump, but at least to get them off the train they're on now.
And I heard you say Biden in response to the young man's question. Why?
I think we all say
agreed
Biden,
on
right?
The others are so bad.
Yeah, the other ones are just
Like Klobuchar, like are there others like Andrew Yang? Like I feel like some
Actually,
of them.
I'm an okay fan of Yang, just because he seems like a decent human being that wants to dialogue with the other side. And
He
I
doesn't
think
seem to hate people who
he
disagree
doesn't.
with
I mean,
him.
he came into the Daily Wire, talked to everybody on the staff, sat down with Ben for a Sunday special. He actually, I don't agree with giving every American tons of money that they didn't earn, but on some things he has said, hey, who is the guy that he just defended on? The guy on SNL that didn't even get to go on
The
SNL.
fired comedian.
The
yeah.
fired comedian whose name I'm blanking on, and him saying, he issued an apology. Let's just not get outraged at every single thing. Yes, I'm offended by him making fun of Asian people, but he's a comedian and he has a right to do that. I don't know that you'd see any of the other, Democratic candidates saying that right now. They were calling for him to be fired.
If we're allowed to talk about candidates who have absolutely no chance of getting the nomination, I was not taking that as part of the question, then I'd go for Tulsi Gabbard. If you're talking about somebody who could possibly, theoretically, get the nomination.
You mean Russian asset Tulsi Gabbard?
Exactly.
I agree with Ann, not necessarily because I agree with Tulsi on a lot of the policy stuff, but she had the most delicious Twitter things to say about Hillary Clinton. I thought that was awesome.
Oh, and she also just worked over Kamala Harris, and it was a thing of beauty. It just made me so happy when that happened. And last thing on healthcare. It's such an important question because the Republicans have been pretty good at being against things on healthcare, and the things that they should be against, frankly. But that's different than being in favor of something. Is it a giant risk to be like, our whole play is no to single payer? Strong case, but if people aren't happy totally with the healthcare system, do Republicans seed the field potentially?
We had the whole repeal and replace thing, and it turned into nothing. So I do think that you have to have an alternative, but it doesn't need to be a big government program. It needs to be things like allowing individuals to buy insurance across state lines, allowing organizations and associations to buy insurance, to use the power of pools, encouraging health savings account, making the tax code more favorable towards individual insurance. Even if you have insurance through your company, they can deduct the whole thing. But if you're, say, an independent contractor, you can only deduct a portion of it. So, you know, we need to make sure that the tax code is fair towards everyone. I do think that you need to have a package of free market reforms as opposed to just saying we hate single payer, because then, you know, okay, well, that's great. What are you gonna, you know, what are we gonna do else, right? So I think the repeal and replace strategy was good. I just frankly didn't trust what they were going to replace Obamacare with to begin with.
And then they didn't.
They didn't do anything.
So, anyway, please thank our panel.